Guys, we're back again from our break. We're on the last leg of our 31 major causes of failure discussion from Napoleon Hill's timeless classic Think and Grow Rich. Can you imagine? We have one, two, three, four, five reasons to get through, and we will be done. Okay, before I get into it, I had promised myself that by the end of Feb, I would have finished this whole thing. Where are we now? We're in May, guys. May. So I don't even know. I am speechless. I am stammering. Whatever. So much has happened between now and then, and honestly, I want to say I saw myself not practicing some of the principles here that we've learned about, um, effort, persistence, procrastination, all that stuff, right? But, sometimes life happens. And what is important is getting back on the horse when you're falling down. It doesn't matter how many times you fall down, what matters is how many times you get back up. So make sure it's always more times that you get back up than the number of times that you have fallen. Having said that, let's get this done. Because in my life, who knows what might happen just in 1 minute or so that will lead us down the road of finishing this in November. Let that not happen. So let's get to it. Number 27, intentional dishonesty. There is no substitute for honesty. One may be temporarily dishonest by force of circumstances over which one has no control without permanent damage. But there is no hope for the person who is dishonest by choice. Sooner or later, his deeds will catch up with him, and he will pay by loss of reputation and perhaps even loss of liberty. Intentional dishonesty. Short story time. Anyways, I don't. Sometimes it's a little bit triggering, but it's not that I was intentionally dishonest. No, it's that somebody else was intentionally dishonest towards me, and I was financially scammed once upon a time in my life. And it was such a bad situation, and it was Yahoo boys. If you know, you know. And these guys, they get rich so quick, but based off scamming, right? Scamming people. But then it's a life where there's no certainty. It's a life where one day the chickens will come home to roost, and you might be caught. You might just mess with the wrong one and be done for, like financially, be done for in terms of your reputation. And it's just not a way of living life. So I think what I'm trying to say is always find a way to make money where you can sleep at night knowing you have caused no harm to anyone, and you have utilized everything, gifts, talents that God has given you to make a living, to earn an income, and to make a great life for yourself and the people around you in a manner that causes you to sleep well at night and to be proud of yourself whenever you look at yourself in the mirror. We move on. 28. Egotism and vanity. These qualities serve as red lights which warn others to keep away. They are fatal to success. Always leave your ego checked outside the door. Outside the door of a place or a space that you do not possess. Story time. I was working at this company, a huge company once upon a time, and there was this guy, I remember, and he was in the same position as me. It was like a position that had like so many vacancies. And it's like it didn't matter who you are or your walk of life or whatever, but this guy had such a big chip on his shoulder, and he wanted to show everybody that he was smart and he was experienced and he was knowledgeable and he was this and he was that. And what ended up happening is that, people actually started resenting him, and they didn't want to be in his company because he was always acting like a know-it-all, like, and he was trying to network so hard, but it was such a weird dynamic, honestly. And what ended up happening is that nobody actually really liked him and nobody gave him any time. They just endured or tolerated him just because, I mean, we're in the same space, and it was a situation where we heavily depended on each other. So you had to make nice with people, or, I mean, just for you to do whatever it was that your job required you to do. So I have seen this really not work out well for people and end up shooting themselves in the foot. Yeah, and like what I said, there's always like fresher, smarter people. Not to say this to make you feel bad about yourself, but there are some people who operate in silence and move in silence. Like I can tell you, in that company, like there were people who had like multiple degrees, lots of experience, traveled around the world, having like really high and quality post-secondary education, like PhDs and stuff like that. And they were just quiet and minded their own business and did their own thing. And then here goes this guy who was like, honestly, like, and I don't mean this in the bad way, but basic, like just your standard post-secondary education, which is a big achievement. It's nothing to like frown upon or look down your nose on. But in comparison to the other talent that was there, even for people who had diplomas or people who hadn't really secured like a post-secondary education, there are people with like tons and tons of like relevant work experience. And to him, in comparison, it was just sad, honestly. And not to mention that someone like that, they usually suck the life up out of the company, the work culture, everything. So it's just like a, yeah, I'm just going to end it on that note. I don't want to spiral. He was not a great guy to hang out with or to work with. 29. Guessing instead of thinking. Most people are too indifferent or lazy to acquire facts with which to think accurately. They prefer to act on opinions created by guesswork or snap judgments. And yeah, I think what I want to add here is that, you know, if you're not sure and if you can't get a hold of resources, just ask or just declare that you don't have sufficient knowledge to help, you know, to help find a solution to the problem that is at hand. Just say something, then not say something, because what ends up happening is that you might end up taking shortcuts, or you might end up creating, like, for example, generating a report that is inaccurate or just falls short of what is required of you, and that can slow down the job because someone else has to maybe do it all over again, or you yourself might have to do something over again. You might be holding people back, holding a project back. Always ask for help. For me, this was something I remember like back in the day that was really important to me. And by back in the day, I mean like when I was in like elementary school. And for those who are in different countries or parts of the world, when I was in primary school, I just used to remember like once a teacher told me, like, listen, there's no such thing as a stupid question. If you don't know how to do something, just like, Say you don't know how to do something, ask how to do something. And I was never too proud to do that, right? I took that teacher's advice very seriously. And I remember like sometimes my classmates would clown me, even when we were in high school. And when I would seek help and say that I don't know how to do something, like people would clown me or try to make me feel stupid or whatever. But I was like, you know what? Water off a duck's back, like my mom told me. It's like, nah, have the confidence and then you will learn. You will always learn and you will be better for it. 30. Lack of capital. This is a common cause of failure among those who start out in business for the first time, without sufficient reserve of capital to absorb the shock of their mistakes and to carry them over until they have established a reputation. Listen, I don't know what number this should have been, but it's like this is something that I am currently facing. I started something, and it's the thing is that when you're starting a business, research is like heavy. You need to be heavy on the research. You need to be heavy on yeah, let me just start with the research, right? You need to know who your audience is, who your target is, what they like, what they don't like, what they need. You need to figure out so many things, and it is very capital intensive. And that is something that, like, I didn't anticipate that so many things go on in the background, and so many of those things require money and time. And sometimes it's not that you're making mistakes, but the time that is taking for you to make the right moves so that you can eventually launch and succeed ends up taking so much money, because you also have to live life. You also have to eat. You also have to pay for rent. You also have to pay for this and that, as well as support something new. So it's tough. It's really tough. But what I will say is, like, hang in there. Hang in there. Talk to people. Luckily for me, I have someone that I can talk to, and they give me good financial advice. They give me they encourage me to try things that I wouldn't think of trying, like getting a line of credit, getting a credit card, or like, just saving money here and there. So there's some moves that you can make. There's some steps that you can take. But what I will say is, like, when you don't have enough money, don't punish yourself over it. Don't be afraid to ask for financial education or financial assistance. And financial assistance, I don't necessarily mean borrow money from like your friends or your relatives, because sometimes this might not be a viable option. If it is, go ahead and ask, but remember to be loyal to your promise to pay them back. I did not go that route. I took the route of talking to somebody in the banking in the banking systems around me. So that is how I am operating. And I also have someone who educates me in terms of finances, and I take things bit by bit. I don't bite huge chunks of money so that I can undertake a project quickly. No, I just do my project in small bite-sized pieces that I can afford to sustain financially. And for what I am doing, let me just put a disclaimer here. It's not a big deal. It's just like a private thing, right? A very private project that I hold near and dear to my heart. Not everybody has the same dreams as me. So you might have a bigger dream. You might have like a very intense thing. Like you can have a dream to invent something, invent an app, invent some form of medication, in, invent a device, invent a system, and that requires more money. So you take the steps in accordance to what you're doing. And what I'm saying might seem so simplistic, but it's simplistic in reference to what with reference to what I am doing. It might be it your situation might be more complicated than mine. So just adjust accordingly. Don't, I'm not saying this like, oh yeah, it's so simple. No, I know it's not simple. I'm just talking about my personal life. If your life is more complicated, your dreams are more complicated, my advice is just don't be afraid to ask and aim for the stars. You never know who will be willing to help you, and always have a clear business plan. Or even if you don't have like a formally written business plan, just explain to people clearly and precisely. And let me not say people, I'll say investors, potential investors, people who are interested in seeing you succeed or develop something good. Those are the investors that I'm talking about. Something beneficial and something that brings an income or profit. Talk to those people and explain to them very clearly and very detailed in a way that they can be of assistance to you, and how whatever your business plan is benefits them as well. 31. Under this, name any particular cause of failure from which you have suffered that has not been included in the foregoing list. So what I will say is, for me, the biggest thing is like fear. Fear from, yeah, fear is just the biggest one. So many things, like you have to undo or you have to face the things that make you afraid to make moves to be successful. It could be how you grew up. You grew up and like people had a poverty mindset, and it was, you came from a society where it was just like, oh yeah, if you beg, ask for money from your uncle, your aunt, this person is always going to give you money, and that's how you lead your life. That's a major cause of failure, because you're just always going to be dependent on other people to supply you with money, and you're not going to look within yourself and use whatever talents and abilities God has given you to succeed in life. Fear, thinking, or insecurity, being insecure about your level of intelligence. Maybe if it's from growing up in an education system that was very competitive and standardized in a way that it didn't show the areas where you are talented in and how you shine in something, but then it just focused on like general subjects, and perhaps you didn't do really well in those general subjects. Maybe you were, you didn't get A's in school or even B's, and you didn't think that you were smart enough to cut it in the world or make money, and you talked yourself out of being great or believing that you were great because of like, just what everyone's opinion was of, and you saw other people being praised. You were never praised, so you don't think you're smart, you don't think you're good enough. What I will say is that everyone was created with the ability to do great things. It's just upon yourself to discover what it is. And sometimes it might not come to you in an aha moment, but then just every morning, just telling yourself, hey, listen, I'm worthy, I'm valuable, I'm and I'm going to find out what it is that I can do and succeed in and just flourish in every single day, just looking, searching within. And that is how you're going to find out what it is. Trust in yourself. Not saying that, you should abandon the creator or the person who made you. Don't abandon that. Don't look to yourself, because you can't help yourself, listen, most of the time. But trust that you are worthy, trust that you're valuable, trust that you can do great things. Trust more in good than in evil. Trust more in positive than negative. Trust that this life is meant for you to enjoy and not for you to suffer or just barely survive and not thrive. That's what I will say. I am so glad to be at the end of this. It has taken forever, but here we are at the end. Thank you if you have been listening to this series. If it has made sense to you, if it hasn't made sense to you, I know I might not be talking to people in a real time because this is a small channel. I have taken forever to complete this series. But for those of you who are watching in the future, thank you so much. For those of you who have stuck by until the very end, for anybody who's new and just happened to stumble upon this, I urge you to start from the very beginning. And I welcome you to this community that I have created. I hope it enriches your life, and I hope even you can be a part of this community and hopefully enrich my life in some way, shape, or form. I am going to continue doing this. I might switch things up here and there, but I hope that this is not the last that you will hear from me. I hope to do so much more because I have big plans for this channel. And I know that this channel has big plans for me and will open big doors. So, yeah, that's it. I'm signing off. Finally done. Woohoo! Pat myself on the back. Might have a little party to celebrate myself. Oh, yeah. One last thing I want to say. Every time you do something important, you set out to accomplish a goal. When you reach that goal, don't forget to celebrate. So for me, a goal was to finish this 31 major causes of failure. That was a goal for me, and for me to post it on YouTube. So I am going to celebrate myself. Every time I pay a bill, trust and believe, bro, trust and believe, sis, I celebrate. What that does, I think I am just trying to tell myself, I'm trying to program myself to not see it as a chore or something that's hurting myself or taking from me. I'm seeing it as I'm doing something that hurts. I'm making sacrifices, but at the end of the sacrifice, there is a reward. So I'm just trying to program myself in that way. So I'm going to think of something to do to celebrate. I don't know what it is, but those are my plans for today. Stay blessed, y'all. Until the next one.